What's up guys, Nightingale here, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering solo raids. So we've covered union raids on the channel, and now we want to talk about the other important big in-game content, and that's solo raids. So a few times we have talked about these in general passing in a couple of the other videos, and today I want to help dive in a little bit deeper into solo raid. Now, as of me making this, there's only about 2 days left of the Modernia Solo Raid. This isn't necessarily meant to be a guide specifically on Modernia. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to talk to you about the general practice and how you can get ready for your next solo raid, whatever boss that may be. So, we will talk about a few practices here, and but it's mostly going to be general topic. To help you, the newer player, progress and get the most out of this content. So, this is technically in-game content, but this actually is a wonderful handheld piece of content that works really, really well for a lot of players. Now, if you remember back in the collab limited and pilgrims video, as well as the team compositions, we heavily spoke about creating teams and how important teams were versus that one really sexy unit that may or may not do anything for your team. This is the endgame of teams. In order to score well, you will need 5 total teams well built to maximize your performance. Now, as a new player, that's going to seem overwhelming, and I will help break this down to not make it as overwhelming. But before we get to that, let's just go ahead and jump on in to the idea of the raid, and we'll work through everything here shortly. So, when you first start, you are presented with 3 clears, as you see here. 3 attempts left over there. 3 attempts to enter. This means you are allowed to clear 3 of these stages a day, potentially, depending on your depending on where you are on your account. So, attempt 1, 2, and 3 as you progress is going to start out obviously from the easiest stage to the hardest stage. There are 7 total levels plus a challenge stage. Once you reach this challenge stage, if you notice, we're on 7 right now. I have 3 attempts to clear level 7. Challenge stage is the one marked by the little skull and crossbones here, and this is, again, 3 attempts to improve your score. Now, to make sure that you understand this, this is not additive. It is just basically high score gets recorded. So if you score 1.5 million, you score 1.4 million, you're not going to end, or billion, you're not going to end up with 2.9 billion. You're going to end up with your highest score of whatever 1.5 was. So this will be what you'll be working towards at the end. But early on, this is actually pretty much a great system. Your rewards that you'll be earning is a first-time reward, which have already been cleared for me because, again, this is at the end, and you're going to be earning the cube battery random reward. So this is very, very important in how you should be going about using your union raid mats. That's correct. There actually is a proper way to go about min-maxing this. You should not be spending your battery or your currencies for union raid if you have solo raid up. And I'm going to show you a great example here in just a moment. But as you go through, you will be earning the rewards, the first time rewards plus the daily reward. Now here's how the cool thing about stage 7 is you get to beat this. Then, once you've beat it once, you can clear quick battle, as you see the grayed out button, twice, just like you do your interceptions or special interceptions. Or your daily missions inside of Side Store. So, you will be able to earn daily 6 different batteries randomly if you can reach stage 7. Now, this is going to be a huge help in the long term of your currencies, which is why you want to balance out how you spend and when you spend getting ready for Union Raid. Now, as far as the reward goes for challenge mode, that is actually shown at end of season rewards. Currently, I am at the 10% rank at, I think my actual rank is 6.68. Why am I not 0.1 lower? Come on. Or just 6.9. I'd take that too right now. But I am ranked at 6%, and I'll be going for a higher rank here in another day of another reset. But here's the cool thing. Just participating, you're getting 100, you're gonna get 100 gems right here. And then as you start ranking, you can earn up to, which I wouldn't count on getting anything, you know, for the vast majority of the community, you're not going much higher than 2,400 gems by being in the top 1%, you know, 1,800 to 2,000 gems. You're not gonna get up into these unless you are really whaling. And I mean really, really whaling. Keep in mind, these people are doing 7 billion. Just rank 50 is 5 billion, 5.3 billion right now on Modernia. So this is gonna be something that you're gonna have to work towards. Now, I said this is why this is important. So follow me for a second. So if we're clearing this for 7 days and we're getting these batteries, you shouldn't be going over to your union shop right here and spending on batteries. Now, right now, I have 9,600 currency. So far, I have gained 8 resilience batteries this specific solo raid. Why is this a big deal? Because that means I don't have to spend all that currency, and I can come down right now for the next day and only have to spend 8,000 currency to get that next level. Or we crank this down, you know, I could get lucky and on the next one I get more batteries and I could spend less, which maximizes the volume of these Union Raid materials. Now, here's the thing. The key point to spend your materials is actually on the last day if you are going to be upgrading, because once you do the 3 clear battles on the final 24 hours, you're not going to be earning any more rewards. So this is the perfect time to go through and make sure that you have upgraded all of your Harmony Cubes that you have at that moment. Now, I'm going to eventually go over Harmony Cubes in a later video, going into them a little more in depth for you. But right now, this is where you would want to spend, is in the final 24 hours. So, the next big thing is practice. Practice is probably one of the most key things for you to do as a newer player to make sure you understand the mechanics. Now, it's a little time consuming, but this is kind of one of the major key points of the game, is this is one of the major contents. But the one you're going to be practicing on is going to be the challenge mode. The challenge mode is significantly harder, but let's jump in for a second. Remember, mock battle is your best friend here. This will give you a good idea of where and what you need to improve on without blowing your daily attempts. Now, if you feel like you got shafted on a run, great. You've got 2 more attempts once you go through that first run for the day. And you can always keep trying to improve. So, practice is going to be key, and here's why. So, if you remember back from the team building video or the collab video, you've heard me talk about the importance of pulling and focusing on teams and why they're important. Because pulling for just random hot burst 3s or a cool burst 2, if they don't synergize, they don't work well together. Why are we putting them on a team? Now, sure, you may want to be like, yay, this is awesome, they're hot, they're amazing, and they look cool as they do damage. Well, then you come into content like this. Now, each boss is different, do keep this in mind, so the results may vary, but in general, you want to have comps that synergize together in many different ways. And it also comes about with this, is it's not always running the exact meta team you think you need to run. Because you might actually be better off spreading your damage out and getting a few little bit lower scores that score overall better than 2 that only score great, because you are against a clock here. Keep this in mind. You have 3 minutes to do as much damage to this boss as you possibly can before you die. All right? Now, with that being said, where do we go with teams? Well, you're a new player. You're struggling. Well, here's the best part about this. See that red button? Everything's fixed at level 400. I have not been playing long enough to have my stuff synced at level 400. I'm quite a ways away from that. I don't even think I'll have 400 by next anniversary. We'll find out. I'm going to come back next anniversary and we're going to see where I'm at level-wise, but I don't think I'm at 400. I'm going to be probably mid-300s by then, or early 300s. We'll find out, but it ain't going to be 400. I promise you that. I'm not spending that much money. But all your units get synced up. A lot of my units here are actually 1-1-1 in their skills. All they have is either their manufacturer gear sitting on them, or they have 4-4-4 from the random units that I am starting to build up and just getting them what I call usable. You know, the ones that I'm more interested in getting ready to use or start building, they get invested up some. So they have a minimal investment. But there are several that will not. I told you needed 5 teams at one point, and I told you that would sound overwhelming. Well, here's why this is important, is right here. So currently on my account, I have the numbers here of roughly where I'm at. So far, Team 1 is my best damaging team. To be fair, this is also one of my highest investments I have inside of 5 units. Most of my year is involved in these 5 units right here. This is a big deal for me. This is my core team. So naturally, this will be my highest scoring team. And I'm willing to look at this and balance them out to potentially come up with some other solutions to make this better. So, my next best team, currently, is actually the most recent addition, which is Tia and Naga. Now, I've paired this up for Team Last Shot, and this one scored for me right now without them being in the cubes, which this is another thing that I'm going to do at the end, is I'm going to min-max this a little bit more, just because I want to see how hard could I push this. I didn't put them in any of the, like, there's, I think, 2 of these are sitting in their proper cubes, but next time I'm going to actually go all the way through it, properly cube all these units, and we're going to see how I perform. But with that run, I did 584 million in that one. Okay, so this still scored quite well for how little investment is in this. Now, sure, Tia has, I think, skill 6 on her first skill. Dorothy barely has leveled, I think she's got like 2+2 manufacturer gear. 4-4-4 in her skills. Naga is, I think, 7-7-7 in her skills. I think I'm like 6-6-5 on Anise because I stopped because I got, I was finishing up Scarlet and I got Modernia, so I never came back to Anise just yet. Then 2B showed up. So Anise got put on the back burner, but she's about to get back on the forefront soon. Pravity is just +4, I think, on everything with just some random base manufacturer gear. So this team nearly scored as well as my main team that I've actually been deeply investing into. Odd. Well, let's move on to what my third team was. So my third team here is a lot worse invested. The only unit here that actually has even a crap's worth of investment is 2B. And quite deeply invested. 3 overloaded pieces. This only scored on that run 224 million. Now, I need to get better at using this team, and also, it's not, like, Guillotine kind of shouldn't be here, especially with how under-invested she is, but I didn't really have another option that I felt like I could get away with. That worked. So I put her here to be able to let this team balance out, because I needed to put some stronger characters in other slots. This is what we talk about when we say you kind of have to make some tough decisions as you start going through this. Now we go to another kind of weird, odd, decently working team. This one scored significantly further just due to A2 and what she's able to do. This scored 283 million on my current run. Now this is a weird team for me, but I couldn't really find anything much better to do because the idea is it is really A2 carry. Rupee's here to just buff. I've got Emma, Pepper, and Helm all saying, we're trying to keep you alive. don't die. And there were many times I did have to reset because just you get focused down by the mini cannons and you're dead. It happens. So you gotta reset. But this team didn't do that bad. And then comes the disgrace team. This is where I hit scraps. It may not look like it's that bad, but for really how little invested this is, most of these units are all 1-1-1. The only one that actually has levels up is my Snow White that I got from at the early part of my game, where I was throwing a few levels in there as we were playing. Since then, she's never gotten an update since, I think, before I quit, before the end of December. I think that was the last time Snow White ever saw an upgrade. Now, outside of the 2 limit breaks on her, that's as far as she ever got. Tier 9 gear and whatever her skills were before I quit. Everything else here is 1-1-1. But today I was able to score 150 mil with this in a practice run, which gives me hope that if I actually was to properly cube this team, I might be able to squeak 200 mil out if I really pay attention to this. So what does this mean for you as a new player when you're playing? Well, first off, you're probably having a heart attack going, oh my gosh, I need 25 units. Yeah, you do. Well, I need to start pulling. No, you don't. You need to go to your wish list is what you need to do. This is where playing smart around your wish list really comes in handy as you start dumping into that. Because generating the really good units that work well in that wish list, plus just your random pulls that you're going to be doing pulling for the new up-and-coming units. Anniversary is coming. So that's going to be a good place for a lot of players to start dumping a lot of resources because so far they haven't hit a miss when it comes to the anniversary or when it comes to their banner pilgrims. Modernia was the first one off, and she's been literally one of the most meta units since the day she released last December. Dorothy came along and said, I'm not a support unit, but I will carry the support tag. I'll support you with a lot of damage, because who needs heals if they're dead, right? That's a great mentality. Just like, if anybody's ever played an MMO before, and you're doing that dungeon or raid, and you have a healer that is cursing you out in the chat because you're standing in the red buff circles, you're doing all the extra DPS. Because that's not an AoE that's about to cleave you. That's just bonus damage, right? So, who needs mechanics if it's dead? So, for a new player, you have to sit here and start thinking about planning out in the long term. Kind of see what your account gets, but you also want to try to make the most of it. And the best way to do that is to come in and work on your practice runs. So if you kind of know what your team is, this is really cool and why Mock Battle is so great. As you start progressing, and I will make a complaint here, as you start progressing, you use your first team, go, okay, so this is what it's scoring. You jump into your next team, and you can see the records of your tests as you go through. You can actually see that here was one of my tests. At first, I scored 76 mil with it, which was me just whiffing the run. And then I turned around and put another 80 mil downrange on it, and I scored 151. Also, some of these really low scoring ones were just me trying to lock out units so I could see what was left. Now, as far as testing, this is cool because as you start burning those units, you start seeing, well, maybe I don't need both mega DPSs here. Because for me, if you really look at this, and you understood by looking at the damage score, Scarlet and, or Modernia and, my, Noir were actually carrying the damage here. So if I put a slightly worse Burst 3 here, and Burst with, say, that first Burst and then Noir, what would my damage end up being? So for instance, let's say I moved A2 here. Would I technically get a better score because I'm now putting Scarlet into another team where I could potentially score really high because she wasn't that far behind Noir, or for that fact, Modernia, but could that technically help me out? It's something that I need to test. So mentalities like this of not always just throwing your best units down into one team may not always be the best advice for a brand new player because once you use that, it's gone. But we have a whole week to work on these challenges. Well, a few days, really, because it's going to take you at least, at a minimum, I think 4 days or 3 days to get into it, because it's 3 a day and there's 7. So no, you need 4 days. So 3, 6, no, you need 3 days. 3, 6, and then on the third day, you're able to do the 7 in the challenge mode. So, by day 4, you have 3 more full days left of being able to improve these scores and tweak around. Which is why I strongly suggest you understand your team comps and start learning about units that synergize well together. But it also depends on what boss we have. Because not every boss will score the same due to type advantage, due to is it core, is it not core, is it a bunch of parts? You know, there's many different things that are going to determine what is or isn't going to damage-wise. You know, what is good or what is not good. So, practice, 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 and work on these teams. So now, how to execute. Once you kind of have your mindset and you understand the mechanics a little bit, like for most people, you need to understand a couple different things about, let's say, the Modernia run. So if we go into, we'll just use my best team here for this one thing real quick, is you need to understand a couple quick mechanics about Modernia. This isn't Special Interceptions Modernia. This is Story Modernia, so you're gonna see the mechanics regardless. But there is still a trick that works here, and that's waiting for Modernia to show up. As soon as she enters the cabin, you skip, and now your units are aiming at the core. So, in this case, keeping the core down is vital to this mechanic. Then making sure that the missile launchers die so that you get more points is awesome. So as you go through this, you'll be working on trying to get the boss down, doing the damage, and you're going to want to be constantly focusing in on keeping the core off of this boss. But this isn't necessarily going to be how every boss works. This isn't like the Special Interception where you blow the core, you blow a wing, and you just keep DPSing its shoulder till it dies. You actually get more points by blowing up the parts. She's gonna teleport, she's gonna do all her mechanics. There is nothing you can do to cheese it because this is not technically the same one. But that little trick actually helps. Now, working on this and understanding and getting the timing down of how these mechanics works is gonna be big for you, and how your burst order's working. Maybe you see you need some upgrades. Maybe you understand where specific parts of the mechanics are like messing you up. Like, okay, well, when I get to this stage, I'm really struggling. Well, why are you struggling? Understanding these specific locations is going to be vital for you scoring well. But also just remember, your gear and your skills are going to matter. Whether you do have stuff in the cube and don't have stuff in the cube matters. Your levels don't once you hit challenge mode. So you are limited to a point based on your progression. But that doesn't mean you still can't have fun and still attempt to try. Because you never know. You might surprise yourself. Because the second team that I used only did, I think on average, it was like 250 to like 300, and then all of a sudden the first run I really committed to, it dropped almost 350 mil. And I was like, wow, I gained 50 more mil off that. That's definitely gonna be a team. And then I dropped my actual run of 584, which means if I actually tried, I could probably squeak that to 700 mil. And that's more points. So my complaint here is the testing feature, because now that I've used this team, I can't get access to this team again. So if I want to just tweak one unit, because let's say I don't want to use Scarlet here and I want to try A2, well, now I have to quit. Well, what if I've already committed a couple other runs in my test? There should technically be a function here that would allow us to reset without having to reset all of our fights, because if I am putting down good runs, then I'm kind of curious of what I'll end up doing. I don't want to have to keep constantly coming back and trying to beat that score, because maybe I do want to try a full cannon run and see what happens to all 5 teams. But I want to tweak that last team because I think I can get a little bit more out of it, or the last couple teams. Maybe I can balance this out to where I earn an overall score more. Now, as far as the rewards we've kind of already talked about, but the big thing here is the gems and the frames are it, and the batteries. Those are your rewards of this. Now, to me, frames mean nothing to me. It's never a reward you can dangle in front of my face and go, oh wow, look, you're gonna get X frame. I don't care. I'm not a person who likes frames. I have literally been this way in every game that ever says, here's a frame. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't care. It's nothing that you can sell me on. The only thing you're actually get me slightly excited about is not even the gems. I don't even care about this. It's nice because I generally did some dumb stuff with some tickets with 2B, so I'm kind of trying to recover that, so they matter a little bit more, but normally, I'm more excited about the batteries that I'm getting than these rewards. And for me, I know if I get anything above 3%, I'm doing awesome. I don't care. If I get above 3%, I'm golden. I know where my account's at. I know where my gear's at. But some of you will care. Some of you want to be these top 5 right here, these top 10. You want to be showing how stupidly geared and how much money you've spent on the game. Congratulations. Go touch grass. Nobody cares that you're the top 3 in a video game. You put that on a reward, they're gonna laugh your face off. Unless it's another video game, then they might actually be kind of impressed. But you go to a job interview, they're not gonna care that you're #1 in Nikke's Solo Raid. They're just gonna be like, what? Oh, you're that idiot who spends a Lamborghini on a game? All right, well, at least we know you're poor with money. We're not putting you in finances because you make dumb decisions, but we're not here to judge. Because, hey, guess what? We appreciate those people who spend Lamborghinis on this game because it keeps the lights on for the people who don't spend a dime, or like me, who barely spends anything. So, we love you greatly. Thank you. Keep spending. We get awesome stuff because y'all spend. But, you know, if you realize that you're not going to go against those top Uber spenders, just have fun. It's great. This is one of the more fun pieces of content you get to do because I have had so much fun putting together these teams and testing them out. I'm excited to see the next solo raid, and this one hasn't even ended because now it means I might have to shift my ideas up because maybe it's a core boss. Okay, well then that means the Tia Naga team is probably going to be my bread and butter team, like a full core boss. Maybe it's a parts boss. That means A2 is gonna get to shine immensely, like we had with Blacksmith here recently. I just wish I had the investment into her last time to have done better. So there's so many different things that is great here, and this is such a wonderful piece of content, and your rewards are fantastic. Enjoy the first time rewards. This is amazing, and this helps you get your stats up. This is super, super important. I will be going back at the end of this run, and in the last 24 hours, and I will be upgrading. Whoops, this is Tribe Tower. I'm gonna be upgrading my Harmony Cube if I have any spare. If I get anything, I will be coming through and upgrading these and really trying to min-max where my units go. But for me, the Resilience Battery is huge. This is a monster upgrade I'm getting. Just leveling this up, I'm getting 7% more reload speed. That means that I can potentially output more damage in every single run for the units that go here because they're not spending as much time reloading. So that gives me the advantage at the end because now I've claimed all my potential cores that are batteries that I need, and I know I'm gonna be spending 40. Maybe I can hopefully spend less at the end of this. I really hope that you take the time to really watch those videos because they're not meant to, yes, they're long, just like this one is. But they're stair-stepping concepts that you put together. And when you fit these pieces together, you get a really cohesive idea of a much broader way of playing this game. I get it. I'm not dumb. You see Opie, you want to pull Opie. You see absolute heaven on a screen, you're like, yes, I need this. But not every unit is worth pulling, especially when this exists. Build your teams up, start focusing on concepts, learn what actually is good, like that are great units overall to have, and start working on at least collecting one. You don't have to worry about max limit breaking except for a few. For me, it's the Bunny Twins. They're here till they're max. Litter is here till she's max. I promise you, Tia Naga, as soon as they show up in this, are gonna be here till they're max. Helm, for me, is gonna be here till she's max. Mast is here till I get her, at least. until we see if anything replaces her in the near future. So she'll be in here for quite a long time. Guillotine's gonna be in here for a while. Helm's gonna be in here for a while. Pravity and Emma, I'm debating on. It depends on what comes up with Elysian that makes something else more viable. So focus in on trying to get some of your pieces in here and collect a lot of these one-offs because they're helpful. There's a lot of great units that are hidden in this. But keep a couple of your major core pieces and work your way around, especially if you came from the Nier event. You've got 2B to think about. You've got A2 to look at. You have the anniversary coming, so if things play out and the foreshadowing of Overzone is true, Red Hood is the anniversary unit. I would be shocked if it's Lilith because of how little it's talked about, and without getting into the deep of the story, Lilith is not really going to be talked about for a while. So Red Hood made sense. There was so much foreshadowed and so much that they talked about. Come on. This is the perfect time to tell a Red Hood backstory like you did Dorothy. So let's go. So you have that coming. That could be a huge piece that you start building around depending on what it is. So work on getting some of these core major units. Start trying to put the teams that work around and synergize well or just work together as a normal, just cohesive thought. Because with the Bunny Twins, so many units work inside that. Some don't work. But it's easy to figure that out as you go along. So take some time, invest into this thought process and enjoy one of the cooler pieces of content. Yeah, it's 5 teams. Trust me, I feel the pain by team 3. I'm going, my gosh, my units suck. But I'm not spending money on this game that deep, so I'm not able to skill up everything as well as I should. I got to interception at special interception at a certain point, so I don't have the gear to keep pushing further. But someday, we will. So hopefully this has been helpful and given you some insight. We have Union Raid coming up again, so the cycle begins again. Time to earn some currency for my Harmony cubes. Time to progress, time to get further. It's a great concept. It's a lot of progress, and I know there's a lot of people out there who don't spend their Union Raid stuff in the right spot. That's why we made a guide for it, so that you understand what is important and what to buy. So you guys take care. If you have any questions about Solo Raid in general, remember this is not a guide for Modernia. I'm not doing one this time. Maybe when the next Solo Raid comes around, we'll probably start doing some on that. But for right now, this is just the getting into Solo Raid for a new player. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments below. You know where to find me. You guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.